Hello and welcome to tonight's show. As is now traditional, I will wait for somebody in chat to tell me this is muted, but I think it's fine. Ditch says Dart's not going well, he's eating 2 packets of Jaffa cakes. I'm going to be honest, Ditch. I find this is probably not something I should discuss on stream. I find Jaffa cakes really clog up the body, and the last time I did at university, there was a special offer on Jaffa cakes. It was like a packet of Jaffa cakes for 50p. This was the 90s, and I ate a couple of packets of Jaffa cakes, and I was hugely constipated for quite a while. My advice to anybody is to go easy on the Jaffa cakes. Yes, it's like if you buy a Mars bar these days. It's half the size it used to be. You have to buy 2 Mars bars to get an actual Mars bar. And Mars know this, which is why they've introduced the Mars Duo, where they go one for now, one for later, and it's actually in 2 halves. And it's like, no, what you're actually selling me, Mars, is a Mars bar. So yeah, 2 packets of Jaffa cakes is probably 1 packet of Jaffa cakes that we think back in the past. Evil corporate overlords, yeah. I don't believe that they are actually doing it for health reasons. I believe they're doing it to make more money, pretending it's for health reasons. They don't care about health reasons. They want us to eat as much as possible. But the fact we have to buy 2 instead of 1 is galling, isn't it? We've got 2 stories this evening. They are themed. I'm going to be honest with you, they are both unsolved. If you like your true crime with a little bow on the end and justice and all of that sort of stuff, this is not going to be that story. But they are very strongly themed. They are both Thames torso mysteries. What's a Thames torso mystery? Well, at the risk of being patronising, it's when somebody finds a torso in the Thames. Are you going to need your safety blanket? You might do. They're but there is going to be we should be raided in a minute, and then we will make some announcements. In fact, which you'll like. You're definitely going to need, but I'm teasing this, you're definitely going to need your safety blanket for a week on Thursday. Will there be cats? There's no cats in these stories. I am hoping the cat makes an appearance, but it is up to the whim of Polly whether she comes on the stream or not, and I cannot control that. I mean, I could probably just put a load of dreamies on there, but I feel that's a bit cheeky. Yes. You will see in chat I have a new remote that is not captured off the internet. That is hello Thelonious, good to see you. That emote is genuinely me and my cat being sickeningly cute. Yes, I'm now a man that films himself kissing a cat. What can I say? I should point out that was the first take. It's not like I was there all day. But don't ask me to do that on stream, because you know what will happen. She will not be in the mood, and I'll get a paw in the face. And then somebody will clip it. A fist spear in my face with tuna, yes. I had tuna pasta last night, and a certain somebody was very keen to eat what I'd left. By very keen, I mean fought me. So I let her have it. So 2 Thames torso murders. The first relates strongly to Jack the Ripper. As you know, one of the things that will be coming later in the year on this channel is a long Jack the Ripper series. And this killing, she's been properly spoiled this week. Oh, she's been properly spoiled every week. In fact, it just gets increasingly worse. But this week, yeah, I mean, let's face it, this week I've not had much to do other than play with the cat and browse, indeed. So there has been a lot, yes. I feel I'm establishing a pattern of cuddles that cannot be met. Yes, Polly had some catnip this week. I'm not sure that's a good idea. I was told she likes it, and she liked it. Sat there meowing into the distance, like somebody, like a hippie on a hill, off their nut on LSD. Not sure that's a night. I mean, why do we do that to cats? Like, you wouldn't actually go, "Oh, hi, son, here's some cocaine," but you'll go, "Hello, Fluffy, have some catnip." So I'm not really. I don't know. I feel like in like a couple of 100 years they'll be like, "And they gave their cat crack." So I'm not sure. Not sure what's going on. I'm new to this. I find catnip a very confusing concept. It's just the way it is. But she seems to she liked it. I've been told she liked it. Oh, hello, James H. Thank you for the follow. Good to see you. Did you try some yourself? No, I don't. Right, so I don't know how it affects humans, but I do not want that effect. I've seen how it affects cats, and I'm not exactly rushing to it. Let's put it that way. Hello, Foxy and friends. Good to see you all. Foxy is a variety streamer who's just done one of her paranormal streams with her new boom mic arm thing. Thank you for following, Leslie Gray. Now, I have been waiting for this raid to tell you all something. As you know, this is a true crime stream. Well, it is only predominantly a true crime stream. Every so often, we'll do a few different things. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to play games, because I'm not very good at games. Yes, it was a great stream, Foxy, but I've been teasing Foxy this. Thursday week, i.e. next week's Thursday, will be the first spooky stream. What you may be thinking is a spooky stream, given that there's enough horrific stuff in this to start with. Well, this true crime stream, everything is researched. It is, I believe it to be accurate and real. The spooky stream, we're throwing all that out. We're just going for full vibes. We're just going straight for creepy, spooky, weird stories. Right? We're not gonna try and analyse them or rationalise them. We're going pure for spooky storytelling. Right now, in order to raise the excitement level, I actually write horror. Right, so I've written for horror websites. I've written horror books. I feel like I can choose and present some good horror. So I won't be doing any of my own material. I think what we're going to try and do, we're going to try and do stuff. Thank you for the bit, Stitch. We're going to try and do stuff that might be real. We're not going to look into if it actually really is, but we're going to do stuff that is supposedly real. Rather than anything I've made up or anything that is blatantly like urban legend. I've got a couple of stories in mind. Yes, thanks for staying for the raid. I've got a couple of stories from that I enjoyed growing up that used to scare me as a child, which I think would be good to do. And there's many more modern new ones. So I'll just load a load of those up and we'll go for it. There are a few other surprises that may happen on the stream. I won't be putting Polly in a costume on account of the fact it's impossible. I did have a. I've actually built, right. I've actually got a special arrangement of spooky stuff for here. And then I remembered everyone wants to see the cat. So we might ditch that just in case the cat comes in. Because we're like, welcome to my strange little occult display, cat. Whoa. So we shall see. Anyway, that's coming up in a week and a half. Do join me. If you like spooky stuff, if you know anybody that likes spooky stuff, this is the one to pop in on. We shall do our best. It starts midnight and we go on until we're all fed up, probably. We shall see how we go. So, what else is new that I have to brief you about? There was a new emote. Thank you for reminding me, Ditch Boy. That is me and my cat. That's not off the internet. That was the first take. Do enjoy. I'm not really sure, given the content of this stream, where a kissing cat emoji is going to be useful, but I'm sure chat will find a way. The other thing is, there are now, as you know, the VODs from all of this go onto YouTube, and we stream this live on YouTube. But there is a new type of material on YouTube. So I've started true crime shorts, which are part of the shorts platform on YouTube. Ditchboy says she now has access to my DNA to implicate me in her crimes. Yes, she will be spreading my DNA when she does her dark deeds. So the idea of YouTube shorts, of my YouTube shorts, is to take the kind of stories that take me 45 minutes here and present them in a 1 minute format. So obviously you're cutting back a huge amount of detail. Yep, go for it, Foxy. No need to lose your eyesight. We're losing a lot of detail, but I'm trying to get the thrust of the story in 60 seconds. And I put 10 of those up last weekend. And they're doing well, so I think we'll do some more. Hopefully they might bring people to the channel, or they certainly will let people know about a few things. Oh, you have some ideas, Ditch? I am ready for... Remind me next time I see you. Yeah, well, I'm available. I'm very available. Also, I'm very open to ideas. Right. Well, I've been waffling on for about 15 minutes, so I should probably do some true crime. So, welcome, Raiders. We're doing 2 linked stories tonight, both unsolved. Both fascinating, one of which is very important in the wider Jack the Ripper mystery. We are doing 2 Thames torso murders. Oh yes, Ditch has just pointed out, I should say we will talk about some true crime, not do some true crime. That is a very different stream. We will not be doing any true crime. Unless you think this is really awful, in which case you might consider it a bit of a crime. But yes, we will be talking about true crime. We're never going to be doing it. I mean, you know, if we get desperate, strap on the camera, go and steal the crown jewels. In fact, that joke's probably got me on a watch. Right, so I'm on a watch list now. Yeah, for those watching the VOD, no crimes were committed during this stream, other than crimes against journalism. Right. Let's try this again. Should we talk about some true crime? Right. So, if I said to you, we're going to look at a crime that happened in London in 1888, where an unknown attacker killed and mutilated a number of women, you would almost certainly think he's doing Jack the Ripper again. But I'm not. Here's the weird... Oh, thank you for the gift sub. Thank you. Definitely innocent. Yeah. To be honest, that's the name we're going to need. What was that, cat? No. Oh, did you hear that? I should give you the disclaimer that if Polly is here and the stream disappears, it will be back. That's because she has a gift for pressing buttons. In fact, let me put my mouse very far away from OBS. Yeah, that was Polly. She's been quite vocal today, which I hope means she's getting more vocal. Prince Andrew. So yeah, the weird thing about London in 1888 is that there were multiple unsolved serial killer murders in London in 1888. There was so much crazy stuff going on. And it's been completely overshadowed by Jack the Ripper. This is in itself. There was an element that's coming up in this story that you would think would make it one of the most famous true crime stories in British history. Right? There was just a phenomenal piece of information, and it's totally forgotten because Jack the Ripper was going on at the same time. That became a publishing phenomena. Obviously, Jack the Ripper is not really a true crime case anymore. It is a sort of cultural mythological thing. So the truth is, no one really knows how many killers there were in 1888. They don't really know who was who. So we're going to get to the fact that many people have said these crimes were Jack the Ripper. Modern serial killer theory, which we'll get to, says this isn't Jack the Ripper. But again, this is forgotten. So we're going to do we're going to do a deep dive into what they call the Whitehall mystery, and then we will expand this into the greater crime of the Thames torso killer. So we're going into a section of the mystery that happens part way through. I think I need to make that clear. So yeah. So it was September the 11th, 1888, when on the shore of the River Thames in Pimlico, a pair of body parts were found dumped. Experts identified these as a right arm and a shoulder. A search of the area didn't find any more. For a while, the leading theory was medical students up to no good. I have to be honest, quite often, when a body part was discovered dumped in this era, medical students up to no good was the sort of default fallback. If you know anything about archaeology, you know when they don't know what something means, they just go, well, it was ritual purposes. Medical students was the it could have happened, but we're going to find out that it probably wasn't in a minute. It's just funny that it always comes up. It came up in a part of the Jack the Ripper case, ironically. Anyway, September 28th, they found the other arm, and then something happened that the police would probably forget we knew about, and in fact we have forgotten this, because on October the 2nd, builders were working on the creation of New Scotland Yard near Whitehall, and they found a parcel. Now, in fact, Frederick Windborne, a carpenter on this building site, had actually found the parcel the day before. He'd moved through a vault in the cellar to collect his tools, and discovered in the dark a carefully wrapped parcel of around 2 foot by 2.5 foot dimensions. Despite maggots being around this parcel, it was only the next day, he mentioned this to colleagues, that they went back and opened it. They found a female's torso wrapped in a black undergarment and bound in string. It's unclear when this parcel was dumped. Witnesses said it wasn't there on September 29th, when there had been last people in the vault, but the maggots suggested it had been there a lot longer, so we don't really know. Police expert Thomas Bond was able to prove the torso and the shoulder arm were from the same victim. Now, if you're wondering where you've heard the phrase New Scotland Yard before, yes, somebody had dumped a mutilated corpse in the building site of the literal new Metropolitan Police headquarters, which they were in for many years. They've moved now. But somebody decided that was the best place to put their murder. Now, while none of the Thames torso murders have a proven motive behind them, people have wondered ever since whether this was put there as a deliberate provocation to the police. And let's be honest, if you were thinking of hiding a body in London, you would probably think of literally anywhere else but the new police headquarters. Anyway, James, So it's also worth mentioning that when the police did a search for evidence of this site, a 4-foot crane collapsed right into the vault and nearly killed them. So they're not. So they're doubly off to a bad start on this one. And you can see why I wonder. Surely that time, surely you'd hide it at a medical. Exactly. Right. The police were blaming medical students. You wanted to hide a body, maybe near the medical school, not in the police vaults. And you can see why I'm amazed that this story is not more known. Surely that is just a fascinating piece of information that would make this legendary. But unfortunately, Jack the Ripper has completely covered up the fact that this happened in the popular imagination. And if you think that's the only daft thing, strap in. Because there was a breakthrough on October 6th when a report from Guildford came in saying they'd found a woman's leg. This was London in 1888. Turned out the leg was from a bear. I'm not actually making that up. An actual bear. Like the... So... It's amazing anybody got caught for anything, isn't it? During this era. Bears. I should point out, I've not seen any explanation where bearded ladies sometimes bears. True, but I have been assured by the documentation this is not simply a euphemism. Circus rides. Exactly. I suppose that's true. There were bears in London for things. It's not like now. But definitely circuses could be a thing. Anyway, on October 17th, a reporter called Jasper Waring took the lead from the police. He used a dog to try and track some evidence, starting on the building site. The dog proved better able than the recent searches because it found a left leg which had been buried in the dirt nearby and missed by the police. Yeah, perhaps you're right. Perhaps the police just wanted to quietly brush this one aside. Because it's not going well for them. This is as much as was ever found. Thanks to some mistakes by newspapers, it's sometimes claimed Waring found an arm and a leg. But this was simply misreporting. Yeah. Ditcher said, notice how nobody's ever used a cat to try some evidence. They'll end up climbing a tree and falling asleep. This is true. Dogs, very handy in tracking evidence. Cats, probably going to help the murderer, to be honest. They're probably on the side of the murderer. Not to... I mean, I love cats, but they are evil. They were out on a limb. T-Gun has one pun of the night. We can stop the stream now. It's not getting any better than that. So far. Okay, so the medical science of the times was able to take a look at the remains, led by coroner John Troutbeck. The woman was well fed, well built, 5'8", mid-20s. They had pleurisy, dark hair, and had been dead 6 to 8 weeks. Somebody had removed the uterus, and the missing arm had been cut off after death. Perhaps there was something on the arm, like a tattoo, that would be too problematic. There was a statement that evidence of knowledge of anatomy was exhibited. But again, if you know anything about the Jack the Ripper case, this just turns into an argument about what level we're talking, modern versus contemporary, butchers versus surgeons and all that sort of stuff. Yes, there's medical students. Yep, don't worry. We'll be their ghosts will be throughout this. It's safe to conclude, however, that whoever cut these bodies was used to cutting some sort of flesh, human or otherwise. The victim had a dress that had been made in Bradford. When they found the legs, they said they had nothing to go on. That's fine. That's fine. If anyone wants to complain, it's T-Gun on Twitch. Despite some parallels with Jack the Ripper, the police were adamant this wasn't a Ripper killing. Newspapers, however, wanted to tie it together in one giant saleable scare event. So they fixated on the idea that this was the Ripper. However, while the Ripper was focused on mutilation, they left the body, most of the body, where they were. They took a few things away sometimes. Nah, she was harmless. I'm interested to see where we can descend with these puns, to be honest. The Ripper didn't chop up and move entire bodies. So while the Thames torso killer may have made cuts and removals close enough to the Ripper to allow for some argument, they didn't store them for weeks, scatter them around across a wider area. Our modern understanding of serial killers is that a serial killer would not alternate between the methodology of the Ripper and the Thames killer. Mostly, because if there's one thing we know, it's that everybody is different and not everybody's the same. We can have as much general knowledge about serial killers as we can. That doesn't mean one person out there will do something different. Just a general thing, but generally speaking, our modern understanding is that these would not have been the same murders. However, that's not the whole picture, because so far we've just concentrated on what's called the Whitehall mystery. And now I want to introduce you to the bigger case in which the Whitehall mystery merely became one killing of what became known as the Thames torso murderer. So the first killing of was also known as the Thames Mysteries or the Embankment Murders fled into life in summer 1887, when in May and June a series of chopped up and dumped body parts were found in 11 separate, one victim, 11 separate discoveries on the Thames, starting in Rainham. Despite that, the head and torso, upper torso, were never found, and no identification was ever made. In this instance, police were certain that this body hadn't been discarded as part of a medical education, and therefore hadn't either been taken by med students or somebody else stealing the students. Oh no, James, this one, the Rainham killing, is not Elizabeth Jackson. She's next. This is a currently unidentified I say currently as if anyone's going to come up with it. This is an unidentified case. We're going to get to Elizabeth Jackson immediately, in fact. So Elizabeth Jackson, it was June the 4th, 1889, a woman's torso was again found in the Thames. The body was recovered over a week in many more pieces than before. So I've got the London Times, 11th of June 1889, taking it. So sadly, someone dies, no one claims them. It is, and we're going to get on to the broader nature of killings. Excellent, James, excellent. We're going to get on to the broader nature of killings in London in a bit. We're going to give you some full context for this. So this is a quote from the London Times, June 11th. Tuesday, left leg and thigh of Battersea, lower part of the abdomen Horsley Down. Thursday, the liver near Nine Elms, upper part of the body in Battersea Park. Neck and shoulders off Battersea. Friday, right foot and part of leg at Wandsworth. Left leg and foot at Limehouse. Saturday, left arm and hand at Bankside. Buttocks and pelvis off Battersea. Right thigh at Chelsea Embankment. Yesterday, right arm and hand at Bankside. Part of this discovery had been thrown over the railings into the estate of the wider family of Mary Shelley. Yes, that Mary Shelley. The coroner compared the victims to the previous killing in Rainham and concluded that this may be a multiple murderer. They said there was a match in the process, but this really had no skill. This was not a skilled murderer, but a butcher. They were merely a butcher or a knacker man. The victim was 8 months pregnant. They had only been dead for 2 days. They were identified as a prostitute from Chelsea called Elizabeth Jackson of no fixed abode. But again, that's as far as the clues went. The final official Thames torso victim was found on September 10th, 1889 by P.C. William Pennant. He discovered part of a body under the Pinchin Street rail arches in Whitechapel. The head and legs were missing. The victim was a woman. She showed signs of being beaten and had died only a day earlier. Nothing else was ever recovered. An age of 30 to 40 was deduced from the body. Now we're going to take a break for a second because there are some other associated potential victims, but we're going to discuss the noise, the context. So there's an excellent book on 1888 on everything else that was happening that wasn't Jack the Ripper, and it's called London Murders in the Year of the Ripper by Peter Stubley. And he notes just how many bodies were found in the Thames. He's got the statistics for 1882. So in 1882, in the Thames, 544 corpses were found. Open, unknown judgments, i.e. we have no idea how they got there, were found to be 277. This may strike you as an awful lot of mysterious deaths of unknown people in 1 year in one river. There's some slightly mitigating circumstances. Bodies in the river present. James, yep, I agree with you, and we will circle back to a bit more on that. But yes, I agree. We're going to do a bit more on that. We're going to do a bit more on the people who have come up with the same killer for both. We're going to really dive into the Jack connection in a second. Now, a body in the river can suffer certain kinds of damage. It can be struck by boats. There can be accidents. There can be suicides. There can, of course, be murders. But it's still a large amount of deaths. Equally alarming is the statistic for how many people went missing. In 1887, i.e. the year before this and the year before Jack, 18,004 people were reported missing, and by the end of the year, 8,716 were still missing. Now, this doesn't mean foul play automatically. There's a lot of movement around the country at this time. There's a lot of immigration in and out. There's a lot of people travelling to supplement their income, with picking fruit and all sorts of reasons. They go to other cities. However, with all of that, that's still a very large number. So there's a lot of unknown people. There's a lot of people going missing. There's a lot of murders. And sadly, finding random body parts was much less unusual than you would want to hope. There's more than a few instances of male and female limbs, heads and torsos being found in the years running up to the Thames Torso killing and after. But once again, Jack the Ripper overshadows everything. Those damn medical students, yeah. Imagine if there was ever found there was a serial killing medical student. An awful lot of people are going to go, it was there, it was right there. So when I say Jack the Ripper overshadows, that's not just me being giving my opinion. I have a fact. On October 3rd, The Times had Jack the Ripper as the main story. The Whitehall mystery was the 12th. You would think they might compete for pages, but they did not. Yep, thanks for giving Sidney a shout out. He's an excellent true life streamer. He's got videos on YouTube as well. I was watching one today. Lovely 2 hours. Yes, it's not like we had the best records of forensics. Exactly, it was a totally different place and a totally different time. And this is no criticism of the police, which was just sort of forming. It was very different. And what I think we found was, this was industrialization. This was I'm holding my nose like that on stream. This was millions of people packing into a city unsupported, living close together. It was an entire transformation in how humanity really lived, especially and in Britain. Then these circumstances had to be adapted to, and you don't adapt immediately. So all of a sudden, you've got vast numbers of people in a small area, people that may have committed these sort of crimes before, that were limited to a few people in the village, now had vastly larger opportunities, and the sciences of dealing with them. In fact, the closed captions can definitely say "holding my nose like that hamster." That's fine. The crime had to catch up. The police forces had to evolve and catch up on what they were doing. In a sense, Jack the Ripper and the Thames Torso Murderer were operating in an era where people were most vulnerable to this. Nowadays we've adapted. There's much more advanced techniques and things. So there's simply no clue as to really what was happening with the Thames Torso Murderer. We don't know where these people were taken from. We don't know where they were stored. We don't know how the parts were moved. So we don't really know anything. But of course, that hasn't stopped people citing suspects. And we're going to cover a few. Now, I'm going to be honest. I'm covering these because I think you'll find them interesting. Not because I think there's any proof about to come up. Okay, I just want to make that clear. Right? We're just covering the subject. I'm not arguing that these are a good idea. So, James Hardiman has been cited as a suspect in both the Thames and Ripper killings. He lived in close proximity to the Ripper killings and was a cat meat seller. Now, before anybody panics, do not panic. A cat meat seller had nothing to do with cats. It was horse meat. Now, I don't... Someone's going to ask, well, why the bloody hell is it called a cat's meat seller? I'm not a cat meat seller. Right. So, don't panic. He was a cat's meat seller. In truth, there is nothing to connect him to these killings except the fact that he was a knacker man who lived in an area and travelled with meat. Some people have found that have found that enough. I don't. Drew Gray and Andrew Wise wrote a book, Jack and the Thames Torso Murders. They saw a combination. They wanted Hardiman. Okay. R. Michael Gordon saw a Jack Torso combination too, and he picked a man better known as a Jack the Ripper suspect, Severin Koslowski, aka George Chapman. That did not catch on. Yep, don't worry, we'll get into the murders entirely. It's interesting that people have managed to sort of push this together. Now we get to perhaps one of the most ridiculous cross combination suspects, which is the case for Charles Lechmere, aka Charles Cross, as both killers was crystallised by Christopher Holmgren in Cutting Point, solving the Jack the Ripper and Thames Torso murders. Now, Charles Cross is in all the Jack the Ripper books, but not as the killer. He's the one who first found the body of Mary Ann Nichols. And later, as writers were trying to get a penny out of this, looking for people to sell books on, they began to alight on Charles Cross. What if, instead of finding the body, he was in the process of mutilating it when the second witness, who we know turned into the street, could be heard, and he had to quickly adapt. The case for Charles Cross deepened when it was found out he was using a false name, and that made a lot of people very interested. However, this turned out to be a family name. Right, okay, everybody get ready. You're all here for this. Hello, Polly. She's never actually jumped all the way up onto that before. This is a development. Somebody's feeling lively today. I didn't know you could jump that high. You couldn't jump that high when you're on the roof, could you? Essentially, they're Polly on the podium, yeah. This is the time to get your remotes out, everybody. I don't know how long she'll stay. She may settle. She may be annoyed with me because I was told off today because it was raining and she couldn't go out. Apparently I'm supposed to be God. It's the catnip. Yeah, she's on catnip. She's wandering around high as a kite. Now, we'll just finish off Charles Cross. So his work is living in his travel arrangements. Yeah, notice how she's not facing the camera. Polly, we need to do some media training on you. You need to look that way. That way. No. You're not doing that. Yeah. And the suspect name was simply because lots of people, Charles Latchman, was simply because lots of his family had that. You know, I'm going to be honest. There's no reason to suspect this man, and it's almost entirely because people were trying to write a story. I think just about everybody that ever gets mentioned in any way in a Jack the Ripper book has been mentioned by some other volume at one point as a suspect. I believe there is even a book that reckons Aberline did it. Probably made a few quid. Right, so we're going to leave Cat Cam on, but I will keep talking. So I am here, but I think this is what we want. So as you've gathered, there's a strong body of people trying to flog the story that the Jack and the Torso Killer were the same. They try and flog the similarities. Pinched streets in Whitechapel, the abdomens been mutilated, the Thames Killer and Ripper damaged the face. Elizabeth had her uterus removed like a Ripper victim, and it's 1889. So why do people believe there were two killers? Well, firstly, it's because it's very easy to sell books by flogging the two together. In truth, they were almost certainly not the same killers. Why? Because serial killers do not tend to change modus operandi in the middle of their spree. It's easy to judge in hindsight. I should point out, James, that when I say that my comments about books trying to connect them together and flog them are based entirely on the media in the intervening years. The police at the time said this is not connected. 100 years of people trying to flog books frequently likes to say they are. At the time, the investigators knew they weren't. Serial killers do not tend to change modus operandi in the middle. They evolve at the beginning, but they don't genuinely go back and forth. The killers we've covered on this show, some of them have evolved over time, but what they have not done is go back and then go forward again. So, there is, however, a very somewhat believable theory, and this is that these weren't murders. Now, you're probably wondering how a woman could end up in pieces in a river and it not be a murder. Well, medical care and laws coalesced at the time to make it exceptionally difficult for certain aspects of women's healthcare. It's possible. Dashboard says medical students. Well, what we're talking about here is essentially backstreet abortions gone wrong, and medical students or medical practitioners or even people who aren't medically trained doing this sort of things, then trying to get rid of bodies. As James says, why would they end up in the river? Well, firstly, a lot of bodies did end up in the river. Putting a body in the river is actually quite a good way. Put them in the morgue. Well, I guess that's only on the medical student's angle. If you're a backstreet abortionist, you don't get to the morgue. You have to dump them somewhere, and the river was a very good place at the time. What is a problem, however, for the medical theory is that putting one of your bodies in the middle of police HQ is about as bad an idea as you can come up with. Right? If you were involved in an accidental death, you do not go and stick it in New Scotland Yard. So, time's been tied. Yeah. In the next story, we're going to see in the next story, which is a modern Thames torso case, the torso in question was literally a few hours from ending up in the sea, and nobody would ever have known about it. Given the number of bodies in the Thames, it's a good place. But if these are all connected, the Scotland Yard case suggests there is something far more problematic and threatening happening here. So we're just going to go with a couple of other deaths, not something we're recommending here. Now, obviously, this is a true crime discussion. It is not a true crime lesson. We are not teaching people anything. We do not expect you to put anything in the Thames. This is why there is a cat's arse on the screen, because this is supposed to be an enjoyable, interesting stream. Yes, you're quite right, Ditch. I appear to have put the camera the wrong. Polly and I need to have a discussion about maybe facing the other way, or I need a camera that faces the other way, because this is a bit of a problem. Wishful thinking. If I put a camera the other way, she will find some other way to sit that will not be on camera. She'll just sit right. I was about to put right under this camera or something. You're lucky you've got my cat's balm at all. You're famous, sort of. Your bum's famous. And before anybody asks, we're not repeating the kissy emote with that in. Yeah, exactly, James, exactly. So a couple more murders that are slightly connected. The Battersea mystery, which won't surprise you, occurred in Battersea and was a decade before this. It was in 1873-4. Police found a section of a woman's body before the entire corpse was found in multiple pieces. The head and face had been mutilated. No suspects were ever caught. This may or may not be connected to the events of June 1984, when another woman's dismembered corpse was pulled out of the Thames at Putney. The head, arms and a leg were gone, and lime had been used to try and damage the body. There were a pair of dismembered bodies found in 1884. Tunnel Court Road, the head and a section of thigh were found, while in Bedford Square, a wrapped up woman's road was discovered, and a few days later, a torso on Fitzroy Square. What all these additional victims goes to show is that it was a pretty dangerous and horrible time for everyone, but particularly these women, because there was an awful lot of death and murder by today's standards. I know we feel that we live in an increasingly dangerous time, but let's be honest. We are not finding various bits of people is not normal now, and sadly, it kind of was back then. Oh, are you going to face this? Are you going to face that your general public? She's a diva. She's a diva. Okay, so that is the 19th century Thames torso murder. If you like that area of crime, as I said, especially. I am working on a book about the Jack the Ripper murders, and when that book is finished, we will be doing many streams to get in a lot of depth and detail. Thank you, Tegan. So I think that was quite good. We'll take a little break, but I'll tease what's next. What's next is a 21st century Thames torso murder. This is also unsolved. If anything, it is just as grim. Her Royal Catbird approves. Yes, we are privileged. I see you looking at me. I reckon she knows I'm talking, you know, because I don't tend to. Obviously, when I'm on your when you're on your, you don't tend to talk apart from to her. So maybe she knows. Right. So I would normally ask you what you think, but I was pretty grim to. In fact, I know what we can do. Let's do a poll. Need a cat bomb emote, yeah. I'm not sure Twitch would let me have that, if I'm honest. The kissy emote got through. I'm not sure what they did about a bomb. Let's do a poll. Polls are good. We will do a. I mean, I'm fairly certain I know what everyone's going to say, but that's not really the point, is it? All right. Right, we have a poll. Were the Ripper and Thames killers the same or different people? Probably should have thought of that 10 minutes ago, if I'm being honest. Why are you looking at the wall? There's a lot of lovely people here that you could be looking at and are interested in my wall. Is this because Daddy can't turn the weather off and you've not been able to go outside? We can. Oh yeah. We probably need to. Do you want the cat bum or do you want the streamer's face? Yeah, let me know in chat if you'd rather have my face back, or if you're okay with disinterested, bordering on rude kitten. Face back, yeah, okay. Right, we'll get the face back. If she turns around, we'll dive back. Yeah, you're right. Nobody wants to look at a cat's bum. We can see her in the background, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Adam. Spoiler, Adam's not their real name. Actually, we can't start until we've had the poll, can we? There was a very clear majority in favour of the killers were different. No, this is a name the police gave the unidentified victim. I don't know why they picked Adam. I have to admit, I've never come across an explanation of why they went with Adam. Doesn't mean there isn't one, but I can't tell you tonight. Right, well, I think the poll's clear. Don't want to be disrespectful to Polly, but I see a lot of cat bombs. Yeah, fair play. If anyone does want to see a face, there's an emote. That might be your best bet. Right, so on 21st of September 2001, many minds were still focused on the events in New York, with many people in London afraid it would be a similar target. It was Aidan Minter who was walking across Tower Bridge that day at 4 p.m. when he first saw what he thought was a tailor's mannequin, or at least a section of it. As he walked on, we've got action. No, you're still not looking, are you? It's better than your bomb. Alright, we'll come back. As he walked on, he realised it was a wounded body, and he called the police. They were able to retrieve the body near the Globe Theatre. She is a diva. She's a princess. She's a diva. She is the full-time boss of this house. Nothing wrong with that. So what they had retrieved from the Thames was the torso of a young boy. He had his arms, legs, and head removed with a degree of skill. He'd been in the water for up to 10 days. There were no signs of... yes, Ditch, yes. She needs a crown. Please don't encourage her. It will only get worse. I've literally set up a podium and a cushion. I'm not sure how it could get worse. But possibly. In fact, I'm going to tell you, I brought her for a little bit of excitement and stimulation 3 cat balls. The problem is, after one night, there were only one cat ball. This is not a big house. I cannot find anywhere the other 2 cat balls. They have vanished, haven't they? Oh, a bit of washing. Washing's cute, isn't it? Would you like to tell me where they are? Tishbro says the attic. I mean, I've not checked the attic. That might be possible. No. So it will get worse. Yes, she's got right. Thelonious. I regret to inform you that she has a big fluffy cat bed on both the ground and the first floor that she moves between. Yes. Somebody is an absolute idiot. Right. Maybe she threw them out the window. Oh God. I've not dared open a window ever since. Right, so they had found the body of a boy. There was no signs of long-term violence, just the method of death. His throat had been cut. However, there were traces that he'd been given cough syrup before he died, as it was still in his system. The limb and head were never found, but detailed forensics revealed that the boy was aged between either 4 and 7. He was probably of African descent, and he was wearing a pair of Orange Girls Kids and Company shorts. Pathologists calculated the body had been first dumped between Chiswick in London and the Thames Barrier in East London. During the size of this zone and the time period being 10 days, they weren't able to find any CCTV that was usable as to who, when and where the body was moved, and a few more hours and it would have been into the sea and lost forever. Of course, the police now searched the Thames for the rest of the body or anything relevant. At one point, they found 7 half-used candles wrapped in a sheet, and this looked like it might fit in with some sort of ritualistic murder. However, it was discovered that this was instead a plea for a local man who had been in New York on 9/11, and they had been praying for him to survive. This was nothing to do with it. Yes, Ditch, but that is the information. So within a week, the police appealed to the public for help on the flagship Can You Provide Help show, BBC Crime Watch. They get over 50 calls from the public, but the leads did not lead anywhere. The police decided that what this unnamed boy needed was a name, and they decided to call him Adam. A promise was made. His name is Adam, and until we can identify him and his family, we will act as his family. And over the years, they honoured that promise. £50,000 was offered for information. In terms of what the police were considering, Adam, a great name, yes. Foxy is a big fan of urban explorer and paranormal investigator Adam Mark. She has permission to watch his videos on stream. They're very interesting. If you're into that sort of thing, obviously watch Foxy, but also Adam Mark is on YouTube. That's a good one. So the police considered the fact that the body had been expertly dismembered and considered that this might be a ritual killing. Not in the sense of a serial killer going through their pattern, but ritualistic, quasi-religious. It was a well-fed, cared-for victim that had then been killed. The police would, at this early point, be extremely cautious about using the word sacrifice or ritual or anything like that, because they did not want to cross over into misinterpreting and offending anything. But nonetheless, they and we in this story do have to handle aspects of this case, because it does seem, with the information that was gathered, likely. Their early candidates were Muti murders, which was Southern Africa. Muti is from the Zulu for tree, and is a system of using flora and fauna in cures for illness. But like everything, some people like to turn that into a rather dark extreme, where body parts are used. So the fact that Adam's missing body parts may mean they had been used. A rival theory was that these were associated with rituals of the Yoruba from Nigeria. And we'll get to where Nigeria comes into this in a bit. The police were very cautious about pursuing these aspects, and somehow managed to travel to Africa to research it, but ended up getting Nelson Mandela to issue a plea. Nelson Mandela actually said, "Scotland Yard informs me that early indications of their investigations are that the boy comes from somewhere in Africa. So if anywhere, even in the remotest village of our continent, there is a family missing a son of that age who might have disappeared around that time, please contact the police." This was a false trail. They were also led astray by a so-called expert called Crede Mutwa, who I must stress is only strongly allegedly a bit of a con man and not an expert. I think that gets me out of being sued. So, a potential breakthrough. In July 2002, in Glasgow, a situation had become so bad that social workers had appeared in court to have two girls removed from their African mother who had recently arrived and was seeking asylum, as they considered her a risk. The mother appeared in court and gave a story which struck many people as bizarre, of her husband's forced, violent ritual activity. This matched objects the social workers had seen in her home. A police officer involved in all these cases rang London up and said, "Look, if you're actually looking for some sort of quasi-African, quasi-ritual behaviour, we've got this lady called Joyce, who is talking all the time about black magic and sacrifice, and she has children." The reason she had ended up in court was that she had come to Britain saying she was fleeing a cult in Nigeria, where she'd most recently been living. Her husband had been a leading light in this group. Light's totally the wrong word, because they did rituals, human sacrifice and stuff. And she told the immigration officers that by leaving the cult, she was in great danger, and she should come here. So she was accepted in. But then she did something very, very weird. And this is why she ended up in court with people trying to take her children away. She walked into her local social working department and said she needed access to her children. This was a mother. This was not an unreasonable request, until she freely admitted she wanted to take them so they could take part in a New Year's Eve ritual. The social workers, a bit astonished, said, it's not the same people as the ones you ran away from, is it?" And she said, "Oh, it is, yeah. So obviously the authorities began to work out what exactly, if anything, was happening with Joyce. So they rang the police, and sent London up. So Joyce alleged there was a cult called the Black Coat Eyes of the Devil Guru Maharaj. This is an actual group whose members have been accused of murder. Joyce refused to give a DNA sample, which they would have used to try to connect her to Adam. She wouldn't go into any more details. She only spoke in rambling, incoherent terms about ritual practices. The police searched her home, and they found Kids and Company clothing. Now, this clothing at the time, of the sort that Adam had, was only available on very limited sale in Germany. Joyce had some of this girl's clothing in Britain. Furthermore, they were able to find an address Joyce had been using in London, which she hadn't mentioned before, and the neighbourhood said, yes, Joyce has recently come from Germany. They went to Germany and found her old flat, as well as details of her husband Sam, who had vanished after being found guilty of document fraud and potential alleged people trafficking. They still could find no actual connection to Adam, though. There was a lot of confusion and weird circumstances. But the police felt Joyce knew more than she ever let on, but she was impossible to pin down. There wasn't enough to pursue any further involvement in her. But they did finally manage to get DNA, and it was proven she wasn't related to Adam. That said, Adam will appear in this discussion. Now, if you're a fan of cutting-edge forensic technology, this is the bit you've been waiting for. So a year after his body was found in September 2002, a memorial service was held in City Hall in London to commemorate Adam. All the experts and officers who had worked on the case and who had begun to feel like his family turned up. One of those experts kept working away. Professor Ken Pye, a forensic geologist at the University of London, worked on the bones. He found elements of the material that we all consume and leave in our bodies. Strontium isotopes are interesting to forensics as they don't decay away enough to change their ratios. So you find the same percentage in your bones as you do on the land where you grew up. What you fed on and what you ate. So Adam had strontium, copper and lead levels 2.5 times higher than a child of the same age in Britain. So he didn't come from Britain. From the data, West Africa looked likely. So scientists went out and collected samples. They dug up soil, they brought fresh meat, they even took a sample from a corpse. This revealed they were able to pin down that Adam came from an area 150 miles in area around Benin City in Yoruba in Nigeria. Completely pinpointed. Benin City was infamous for people tracking. They then looked at his organs and were able to look at the pollen. They discovered he had only been in England for a few days before being murdered. Substances in his stomach were identified: African river clay, crown bone, minerals and metals. So it looked more and more like some sort of trafficked moved Nigerian. That only works if someone stays in the same period for a long period of time. Yes, it does. It does if Adam had been moved monthly, yearly around the world, it would be a problem. But they felt all that data was useful at this point. Benin City was an interesting location for the police because it's where Joyce had come from. So the police tried to get information from Joyce. Finally, her asylum application had been rejected, so they flew with her to Nigeria in the hopes that while out there she would talk to them. She refused. They had to go back home, and she disappeared. Her daughters were placed in foster care. It was only after this information came in that the German police were able to ring them up. They had identified that Joyce had come under an alias to Germany in 1992, a year after her husband, who had also used an alias. Their first child, a son, was declared dead during the same period. and there had been no hint of any ritual activity. Furthermore, the two daughters had attended a nursery where, the staff explained shortly before they left, they had worn orange Kit and Company shorts. But Joyce led to what was hoped would be a second breakthrough. Earlier in the contact with her, they realised that Joyce had only got two names in her phone. So they looked them up. At the end of 2022, they were able to put a face to one, Musa Kamara. He was living in London. They went round to see him. His property had packets of sand and soil and vials of liquids and animal skulls with nails in them, and a videotape with rituals written on, one of which was a beheading that nobody could tell whether it was real or fake. It did not take Sherlock Holmes to conclude that Kamara was somehow involved in some sort of ritual activity, African, fictional, made up from a book or otherwise. Nevertheless, there was none of this that linked him to Adam, and he had to be released on bail. But the bail was a trick. Yep, they had genuinely let him go, but they were now following him, because they had carried on researching while he was in custody, and they discovered he wasn't really called that. He was called Kingsley Ojo, and he had connection to human trafficking gangs from Benin City. Ojo hadn't realised the police were onto him and instantly called his contacts up. Conversations proving he was a key point into the smuggling of Nigerians into Britain. The police followed this lead by literally following Ojo across Europe until a ring of 21 people were arrested in 9 raids. They were all charged with people trafficking. However, Adam's murder was not on the list of crimes Ojo stood trial for because there was no evidence. But they did have enough identity. He pled guilty to people smuggling fake identities and bringing hundreds of people into the UK where they were forced into slavery or sexual slavery. He was given 4 years, after which he would be deported. Oddly, however, while in prison, he did start charging his fellow prisoners money for doing rituals. The police working on the contents of Adam's stomach now made another find, and they got in contact with Kew Gardens. Adam had been given 2 plants. One was the Calabar bean, known as the Doomsday plant, which paralysed victims and was used in West African rituals. The others were Datura seeds, which when turned into a powder relaxes you and triggers hallucinations. They were able to conclude that the quantities Adam had been given when he was killed, he would have been paralysed but aware of what was happening. These plants come from around Benin City. At the end of 2004, the official inquest into Adam's death closed with a decision on unlawful killing, of having his throat cut while alive but paralysed, but there was no further clues. 2 years later, Adam's torso was buried in a secret grave in London, in a cemetery once more attended by his new family of detectives and experts. Uh, 2005 brought a massive diversion, which in the end didn't lead anywhere. Kingsley Ojo said could he be released from prison early and deported back to Africa if he told the police everything he knew. They went okay. He went back to living as a free man in London and spent 2 years drip feeding the police nonsense, that he had recordings of Joyce in Nigeria, that he would get Joyce back to Britain, that other women had been in charge of rituals, on and on and on and on. Finally, the police had enough, realised he was just stringing them along and deported him. Meanwhile, Joyce had reappeared, no thanks to Ojo. She was arrested by Nigerian police. She said she had lived in Hamburg, yes, she had looked after Adam, and it was her that brought her his orange shorts. She said she'd been a member of the Guru Maharaja cult from 1994 to 2002, had left because it was terrible, denied knowing anything about Adam's death, and then said he'd been killed by people in Lewisham who were in the cult. The Nigerian police released her and she vanished. None of this was ever able to be verified. A decade after Adam's body was found in 2011, another breakthrough looked imminent. The case had never been closed, and investigators discovered that while in Germany, Joyce had left a pile of stuff with a friend, and she still had it. And they were able to get hold of it. They found photographs, including one of a 5-year-old boy, taken in 2001. Could it be Adam? It was at this point that a news team from ITV News tried to find out. They managed to track Joyce down in Nigeria. She said the boy wasn't called Adam, he was called something else, and that she'd been given him to look after by a friend, and look after him until a man called Bauer took him, and that this was Adam, but no identification could be made from this. The BBC and the police combined to get cameras and a retired officer in front of Joyce. She claimed she was suffering from mental health, living in Benin City, that this boy wasn't Adam, and the BBC were actually able to find this boy and prove that he was alive and not Adam. Joyce now began referring to Adam as Patrick Erhebor, and said, "Oh, she did look after this other boy." Again, this couldn't be proven, and you may be getting to the point where you're fed up of Joyce just making any old nonsense along. However, the BBC and police combined team were able to re-find Ojo. He denied everything, and basically that was all a complete waste of time. Since this, there have been no major breakthroughs. Joyce died in 2020. No one has ever come close to being charged. We don't even know Adam's real name for sure. The Thames Torsa case has dropped out of the news cycle. The whole case has caused considerable issues for the African community in the UK, as in the initial years the media ran many scare stories on the magic panic, that there was some sort of many mad African cult killing people, which there aren't. However, they've not given up. A major new appeal was launched in 2021, and DCI Kate Kira said it is incredibly sad and frustrating that Adam's murder remains unsolved. Hello Tom, great to see you. The homicide command have been working tirelessly over the years to find out who was responsible. We recognise people may not have wanted to speak up at the time and may have felt loyal to the personal people involved in this. However, over the past 20 years, allegiances may have changed, and some people may feel more comfortable talking to us. We implore them to be bold and come forward. And finally, although Adam has not been identified and has not had justice, it is believed that he has a legacy of some good. Detective Inspector Will Riley was quoted after working on the case: "From what we have been told by informants, our investigation has been a deterrent to others who may have wanted to repeat this." And sadly, that is the case of two unsolved Thames Torso murders over a century apart. Hello Tom. Tom Hansen is a brilliant drum streamer. He's my favourite drum streamer on Twitch. Check him out Wednesdays, Fridays and Saturdays. Great guy as well, good fun. Yeah. Now I feel that because that's been two fairly sort of heavy unsolved cases, I did want to further remind you, and anybody that wasn't here at the start, set your schedule for next week's Thursday, a week and a half hence, which is the first spooky stream. If you found today a bit heavy and depressing, the whole point of the spooky stream is we just do crazy stuff that, let's be honest, probably isn't real. Oh, don't worry, we're going to be getting to Ditch Boy Sydney, don't worry about that. we're just going to cut loose with some spooky stuff. I'm not going to try very hard to prove it's real. That's not the point. The point is we enjoy it. Well, thanks, Tegan. I hope you've enjoyed today. Tying these together thematically, I thought was a good choice. Oh, you've lost a bunny, Thelonious. Oh, hang on. Right, so the cat cam, it doesn't show her little face, which is hanging off. I messed that up as well. I hope you find your bunny, Thelonious. They could be That could be next door. That's a nightmare. Oh dear. Yeah. Well, best luck. Best luck. I know they can. I know they can be quite difficult. My neighbours. When we moved to where I am now, I'll not dox myself tonight. This town, my neighbours had a rabbit, and despite massive, deep bunny fencing, the rabbit would often end up in our garden, which we liked. We were little. We thought that was cute, but their owners were somewhat frustrated. So best wishes, Thelonious. So yes, we're just going to go all out. Oh, she's in the house. Oh, that's good. Well, at least that's something. We're just going to go all out for spooky. There will be questions, but those questions will mostly be, that's not the point. Alright. Like doing these streams, anyone can ask me anything about what we're doing. Yes, Ditch. There are obviously, Ditch, the cosplay plans have had to be dialed down due to the fact I can't spend as much money. However, a couple of things have already arrived. I will send you so as you know, as you may not know, Ditch Boy is actually my oldest friend. He is also a streamer. He's hoping to stream Baldur's Gate 3 soon. He's got a great knowledge of how to do crazy stuff in that game. I think aspect of the chimp, wasn't it? Occasional streamer there, that's fair enough. Whatever you want to say. And I will send you the video I made to tease this. So there is at least there are a couple of props. There's not going to be full cosplay, sadly, but I have some props. I should point out that I was going to do oh, that's better. Look at the screen. No. We're going to really need to give you media training. Now, you've got such a beautiful face, Polly. Why don't you want to share it with the people? Better washing, as long as you don't wash your bum. Right, we'll come back to me. There was going to be some props down on a cat chair on the pet podium, but I think actually she's looking at no. I think we'll leave those props and we'll try and encourage Polly to join us. Polly said no. Yeah. We'll try and encourage. I was going to say we'll try and encourage Polly to join us, but as all she's done this evening is show your ass, so maybe we won't. Maybe I will put the props out. But yes, there's a few surprises. I may even. Sorry, I've been told off for being too loud. If you're a regular viewer of this stream, you will notice I have not so far put up any images. You don't pay Polly enough. Thelonious, the amount of dreamies she gets through. I have a friend who has a who has a giant ragdoll cat. Polly eats more. I don't know where she puts it. And then she eats a considerable amount of dreamies. Paid in dreamies and cat. Yeah. Where was I? Oh, that's it. I may have a section of imagery, of spooky images. I've made a very conscious decision from the start doing this that we would not do. Although I was going to be doing heavy and often quite unpleasant murder descriptions, there would be nothing. I'm never showing a crime scene photo. I'm never showing videos of people falling off a cliff or anything like Twitter. I don't know. Twitter's just the world. You can't scroll on Twitter for more than 5 minutes without someone dying. So we're not doing any of that. But on the spooky stream, we may do some ghost photos. Again, you have to be very careful in copyright, but there are some apps. We may do some of the all-time classics. We may go through some of the all-time classics. I get it. I get through Tales of Trees and Food. Exactly. So we may go through some classic ghost photos. And then I will tell you their stories, which are... I mean, these days, ghost photos. Someone's taken it on... Yeah, getting a copyright claim from the ghost. These days, it's like, oh, I took a photo of my phone, and it's like done with an app. But when I was growing up in the early 80s, ghost photographs always quite rare and had fascinating backstories. And there's some really great ones, so we're probably going to do those. I feel like they've been ripped off enough that I won't get sued. But not, and then we'll do some great stories. So that's what's coming up. Admittedly, you've got 2 streams before then to put up with me. Or we have movement, but you can't see the movement. Right, just to prove I do... This cat does have a face. Yeah, unfortunately, you do have 2 normal streams to go before we get to the spooky stream, so you'll just have to stick with me being talking about random stuff. Is there anything else I should tell you tonight? Yeah, she's had enough. To be honest, we're getting near the end of the stream, and the cat's like, "That's it. I've shown them my bum." Yeah, that's not really going to encourage people to come back, is it, Polly? Yeah. Well, there we are. There we are, everyone. Set up a cat cam. It'll be cute. Yeah. I don't know what we're doing on Thursday. Because I'll be honest, I've been too busy selecting material for the spooky stream, which I accept. You've got this, Dad. Yeah, she's done the quality control. She's now off to file the report. Oh right, actually, I completely failed in the last story. There is something on my notes that I meant to read out. Right, this is important. If anybody who happens to be stumbling across this VOD has any information about Adam, you can either tweet at MetCC, or ring the police on 101, or call Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111. Those are all genuine numbers put out by the police. You never know. I mean, it won't, but I found that information and I meant to say it. It's in bold. It's in bold on the bottom of a document, and I just completely didn't know it was there. Pro streamer forgets the public interest part of the story. So I think that's everything. I could talk about the spooky stream for more 10 minutes because I'm very excited, but I think I've promoted that enough. Yes, if you're interested, I have now. It's okay, it's your first time. No, wait, no, yeah, okay. It's been a while. I'm going to plug the shorts again. I've started creating YouTube shorts. These are custom written, sub 60 seconds. The idea is the stuff that takes me 45 minutes on this stream, I tell you about in 60 seconds. Obviously, it's a different approach. There's not so much detail. I am trying to give you the full gist, and then you can maybe watch me or read somebody else or follow it up. So that's what we're doing. We're doing true crime shorts on YouTube to try a new format. It's different. I like being able to sit here and just talk about as much as I've got, and I like being able to sit there and go, right, how can I tell somebody that's got 60 seconds everything they need to know to just have a handle on this. And I like doing both these things, so we'll pursue that. But if you're a shorts person, YouTube. If you want my VODs, if you want to see other things, I'll do this again. VODs are on Twitch for a little bit, but everything is on YouTube forever. I say forever, I don't know how long YouTube's got. I mean, I'm a historian. I'm well aware that nothing is forever, unless, So, look, in practical terms, they're on YouTube for quite a while. We've had Foxy kindly being on the YouTube stream, which is great. Thank you, Foxy. And thank you, everybody, for joining me in chat. I hope you have enjoyed tonight. We had crime, we had cats. I mean, that's all I promise. I didn't specify which end of the cat, and I didn't specify that it would be a happy crime. On Thursday we will endeavour to do something slightly less depressing and something slightly less bummy, but we shall see. But again, if you know people that wouldn't watch this stream because it's crime but do want to get into a horror vibe, do hit me up. Do tell them Thursday week. I'm going to try and mix up like the stuff that I like that's famous with different stuff that you may not have heard. I'm not just going to sit here and look at the classics. I will tease. I really want to talk. I'm going to take a sip first. We will definitely be covering the hairy hands. I hope that because I've got quite a few people from around the world, the hairy hands will be new to you. We're doing the hairy hands because it is a story I first heard when I was about 5, and it absolutely put the fear into me. So we'll be doing that, and then we'll do some others. The hairy hands are not Richard Keys. There's a reference only Ditch is going to get, but I feel that's fine. Richard Keys being a British TV presenter who's very hairy. He's like a sort of British Wookiee. Yes. Thank you, Thelonious. Right. Well, I don't want to... I mean, the cat's gone. I've sort of run out of material for the night. I don't need to flog this to death. I will let you go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a raid. Now, I will be looking for many interesting and varied people to raid, but I thought that as tonight, maybe for some people would have been a bit of a heavy, depressing one because there's no end. We will be going to Furball Farm, which is simultaneously for me cute and scary. I like cats. Furball Farm has a room with too many cats, right? It's like a warehouse of cats that can't really live with people, and I have absolutely no idea how you change the litter trays, because there's just too many. There's so many cats. I've discovered there is a limit. I have a limit on cats, and it is a warehouse full of them. But they're so cute. It's too many. Goodness, if it's too many, even for Thelonious, who has about 28 cats. But it is very, very cute. So do stick with me as I organise this. I do want to say, if you know of sort of small streamers, ideally who do chatting things like this, do let me know. Do suggest things. You know, you've all got friends on Twitch, and I would be thrilled to meet them and bring my audience over to something like that. Oh, the litterbox says, you're not supposed to have gone in advance, Thelonious. Do let me know, if there's something we can do. We did dinosaurs last week, and that was brilliant. I do really like its content, but I'm always up for something else. So do let me know if you know someone. Right, let me set this raid up. Do I have any idea how to do this? Yes, I do. Well, everybody. Oh, you mean you do? I do about 30 every day. Oh, God, goodness, Thelonious. To be perfectly honest, then, you sound like somebody that would get on well at Football Farm. Well, thanks, everybody. Great to see you all. I hope to see you on Thursday or in our various friends' streams. And do take care. Here we go. Enjoy cats.